Today's number is 346, as in 346% increase. That's the highest spike ActiveTrack measured across any category of work app usage after companies adopted AI tools. Not a dip, a spike of 346% usage. Bloomberg reported on it this week, citing data from ActiveTrack's 2026 State of the Workplace study. And they gave it a name, the Great Productivity Panic. AI was supposed to make your day shorter, more efficient. Bloomberg's data says it's actually making it longer, stuck in front of a screen. We'll get into why here in a second. AI was supposed to save you time. Bloomberg says it's actually doing the opposite. Meanwhile, one of the biggest AI trials of the year just got more dramatic. Elon Musk doesn't just want damages from OpenAI anymore. He wants Sam Altman fired. And he says he'll donate every dollar he wins to charity. The three biggest AI rivals, the companies behind ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, just did something they've never done before. They teamed up to take on a common enemy because someone is stealing their work at scale. And Meta just signaled a major shift away from open source AI. The company that gave the world Llama, the foundation of thousands of business applications across the world, just launched a closed proprietary model alongside it. It's called Muse Spark. And it does everything Llama did with 1/10 of the computing power. Pressure from above, pressure from below, pressure from the tools themselves, and yes, rivals coming together to do their best Avengers impression. That's in today's show. I'm Don Michalik, and this is your Morning Intelligence for Thursday, April 9th, 2026. Here's what we've got today. Bloomberg's latest report, drawing on ActiveTrack's workplace data, says AI tools are making knowledge workers log more hours, not fewer, with email usage up 104% and messaging up 145% after AI tool adoption. We'll break down what they found and why they're calling it the Great Productivity Panic. Elon Musk just amended his OpenAI lawsuit to demand Sam Altman's removal, and he pledged to send any damages to a nonprofit arm. Jury selection starts April 27th. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are sharing intelligence for the first time ever to fight Chinese model copying. And Meta just took a major step away from open source AI. The company that built Llama, the model thousands of businesses rely on, launched a closed proprietary alternative called Muse Spark, built by a brand new lab, led by a brand new hire, with a very, very big price tag. In today's deep cut, the company behind ChatGPT just bought a media company, a talk show, for hundreds of millions of dollars. NPR is asking why, and we should too. And we'll close with the company that's keeping those three AI rivals up at night. DeepSeek just launched a consumer product built on a model that reportedly costs $5.6 million to train, though analysts say the true all-in cost is far higher. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right. I want to start with a question. How many of you listening right now using AI at work and are thinking about your day and how to make it shorter? Yeah, Bloomberg has some news for you. This week's Bloomberg report is called the Great Productivity Panic of 2026. It draws on data from ActiveTrack's 2026 State of the Workplace study. And it's the most data-backed piece I've seen, at least, on what AI is actually doing to your workday. Not what the companies say it's doing, what it's actually doing. Here are the numbers. After companies adopted AI tools, time spent across work applications didn't decrease. It actually increased dramatically. Email usage went up 104% alone. Chat and messaging, think, Teams and Slack, went up 145%. Business management tools, think your product management, your project management apps, your dashboards, your analytic platforms, up 94%. And in one category of work applications, time spent increased by 346%. Let me say that again, 346%. That's insane. Bloomberg introduced a term for what's driving it. AI FOMO, the fear that not using AI tools constantly is itself a form of falling behind. Workers aren't choosing to work longer. They're responding to an environment where expectations have been permanently raised. The tools can do more, obviously, so your boss expects more of you. And because everyone else on your team is using AI to produce faster, opting out feels almost like career suicide in a way. Bloomberg senior editor Shona Ghosh put it bluntly. She warned of a future of perpetual AI admin, where workers spend more time managing the tools than reaping their benefits. Prompt engineering your way through a task that used to take 10 minutes of focused thinking, running 3 different AI models to cross check each other's outputs, reviewing and editing AI generated content that was supposed to save you the effort of creating it itself. And if that sounds familiar, if you've ever spent 30 minutes tweaking a ChatGPT prompt to produce something you could have just written in 15 minutes, you know exactly what Bloomberg is talking about here. So, why does this matter? Well, here's why this is the lead on Thursday morning. We've spent weeks on the show talking about AI replacing jobs. Just listen to some of the past episodes. And obviously, that's real. That's happening. But Bloomberg just quantified the other side of the coin, the part that affects the people who still have their jobs, the ones who are using these tools every single day, which is probably most people who are listening to this show. The bargain was supposed to be this: AI saves you time. You work less, everyone wins. Bloomberg's data says the actual bargain is AI produces more, so the company expects more of you and you absorb the load. That's not a productivity revolution, that's a speed up. The bottom line here: Bloomberg reported on it for a reason. AI tools are making workers more productive in theory and more exhausted in practice. If you've ever felt like the tools were supposed to give you time back and somehow they didn't, well, you're not imagining it. 346%. That's the number. And the next time someone at your company launches an AI efficiency initiative, ask one question: efficiency for who? All right, let's get into our rundown here. In our first story, Elon Musk is seeking to oust Sam Altman from OpenAI, and the trial starts in 18 days. This is one that just got a lot more dramatic, obviously. I talked about it in the opening segment. Elon Musk's legal team filed an amended lawsuit against OpenAI on Monday. And this new version isn't just about money anymore. Musk is now asking a federal court to remove Sam Altman and President Greg Brockman from their roles entirely. He wants them gone and OpenAI's for-profit conversion unwound. And then he did something nobody expected. In a separate filing, Musk pledged that any damages previously reported as high as $134 billion would go to OpenAI's nonprofit arm, not to him personally, to the nonprofit. OpenAI fired back on X, and I'm quoting here, quote unquote, a harassment campaign driven by ego, jealousy, and a desire to slow down a competitor. Meanwhile, OpenAI strategy chief Jason Kwan sent letters to the California and Delaware attorney generals urging them to investigate quote unquote improper and anti-competitive behavior by Musk. The letter alleges Musk has been coordinating with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg to undermine OpenAI. Jury selection on this one in Oakland federal court opens on April 27th, 18 days from now. And the trial is expected to run for about 4 weeks. So what? Well, this is the biggest tech trial since Apple versus Epic. And the outcome could reshape who controls the company behind ChatGPT. That's a big deal. If Musk wins, OpenAI could be forced back to nonprofit status. If OpenAI wins, it validates the for-profit pivot that made ChatGPT possible. Either way you look at it, the tool that has 900 million people using it every single week is about to have its corporate structure decided by a jury. Mark April 27th on your calendar. Trust me, it's going to be a big day. All right, our second story in the rundown. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google unite against Chinese AI model copying. All right, this is a big one as well because these 3 companies have never actually agreed on anything in principle until now. OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, the companies behind ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, are now sharing intelligence through the Frontier Model Forum. Their target? Chinese labs that are systematically copying their models through a technique called adversarial distillation. Here's how it works. Chinese developers, and Anthropic specifically named DeepSeek here, Moonshot and Minimax, have been using thousands of fake accounts to query these models. Thousands of questions carefully designed to extract the model's knowledge. Then, they take those outputs and train cheaper copycat models without the safety guardrails, without the alignment work, without the billions of dollars of research that went into the originals. Anthropic alone caught 24,000 fake accounts targeting Claude. OpenAI and Google have reported similar attacks on ChatGPT and Gemini, though they haven't released the specific numbers. OpenAI has already asked and warned for Congress about DeepSeek's methods back in February, and U.S. officials estimate that these operations cost Silicon Valley Labs billions of dollars annually. The practical concern here: cheaper, safety strip models flooding the market could undermine the tools you actually trust and create a race to the bottom. So what? Well, obviously, think about it this way. Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper don't share intelligence ever. Obviously, they're three different companies. The three companies behind the AI tools most of this audience uses every single day just decided their rivalry matters less than a shared threat. We'll come back to who they're worried about here towards the end of the show. All right, in our final story in today's rundown, Meta launches Muse Spark, signals a shift away from open source and bets big on closed AI. All right, and this is another big story. This one's been building for months, actually. And if you've been listening to the show, you've been watching it happen here in real time as well. We've covered it multiple times. Back on April 3rd, our fun closer for the end of the day was about Meta's next generation AI model, codenamed Avocado, failing its own internal benchmarks. It couldn't beat Google's Gemini 3 in reasoning, coding, or writing. So the launch was delayed, and that was about 2 weeks ago. Today, Meta revealed what it did instead. They built an entirely new lab, hired an entirely new leader, and launched an entirely new model, all from scratch. It's called Muse Spark. It's the first model from Meta's new superintelligence lab, led by Alexander Wang, the former CEO of Scale AI. Meta invested $14.3 billion in Scale AI for a 49% stake to build this division. That's not a partnership, that's basically a takeover there. And here's where it gets strategic. Muse Spark is a closed proprietary model, not open source. For years, Meta was the company that gave the AI world Llama, the open source model that became the foundation for thousands of business applications, startups, and research projects. Llama was Meta's identity in the AI race, the thing that made them different from OpenAI and Google. That era is now in question, right? Because Meta says future larger models may still have open source versions, but their flagship product just went closed. Muse Spark is natively multimodal. It reasons across text, images, and tools. It's rolling out to power the Meta AI chatbot across Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook in the coming weeks. And it focuses on what Meta calls personal super intelligence: health information shopping, visual understanding, social content, you name it. And here's the technical detail that actually matters here. Meta says Muse Spark achieves the same capability as Llama 4 Maverick with over 10 times less compute power needed, 10 times more efficient. When Avocado failed, Meta didn't just fix it, they replaced it entirely. They threw out the kitchen sink and said, here we go, let's do something else. Well, so what? If your company uses any AI tools built on Meta's Llama models, and there are thousands out there that do, the company that made those models just launched a closed alternative and signaled that open source isn't their priority anymore. And that's a wake-up call, at least from a Meta perspective. Check in with your team today about what you're building on. And if you're one of the hundreds or millions of people who use Meta AI on Instagram, WhatsApp, or Facebook, well, the engine behind it just fundamentally changed. The free AI for everyone narrative for Meta is evolving into something more controlled, more capable, and a lot more expensive to build. All right. If you've been listening for the last few minutes and you're thinking, someone at work really needs to hear this stuff, you know what to do. Take a moment to share this episode. Drop it to a group chat, text it, share it on LinkedIn. It takes 5 seconds, and it genuinely helps this show reach the people who need to hear it. All right, let's get into the deep cut, because this one is about trust in media and who gets to tell you the story of AI. I want to tell you something that happened last week, and then I'm going to tell you why I've been thinking about it all morning here, because it directly affects what this show is and what it's trying to do. OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, acquired TBPN. That stands for Technology Business Programming Network. It's a daily 3-hour live tech show on YouTube and X. About 70,000 daily viewers, roughly $30 million in annual revenue. Think of it as, and NPR used this exact comparison this week, the support center for Silicon Valley. The deal was reportedly valued in the low hundreds of millions, and TBPN will now report to Chris Lehane. If you don't know that name, you should. Lehane is OpenAI's Chief Global Affairs Officer, a former political operative who built his career in the Clinton White House and Silicon Valley crisis management teams. Not their chief content officer, not their head of media relations, their top political strategist. OpenAI said editorial independence will be maintained. TBPN's existing hosts, they'll stay. The content will be the same. And look, maybe that's true. Maybe they bought a media company because they like the content and they see a business opportunity here. But here's the part that should make you pause. And it made me pause for sure. This is the first time an AI company has acquired a media outlet. And it's not just any AI company. It's the most powerful AI company in the world right now, the one whose product 900 million people use every single week. And the show they bought covers the AI industry. And it now reports to the company's chief global affairs officer, a career political operative. And yes, as someone who hosts a show about AI, this one hits a little close to home for me. So why is this worth your time? Well, here's why this is a deep cut and not just an acquisition story. AI is one of the most important business stories of the decade. And right now, the companies building the AI are also funding the journalism that covers AI through advertising, sponsorships, thought partnerships, whatever it may be. That's been true for a while, but buying a media company outright is a different thing. It's entirely new. It's never been done before. When the company behind the product is also the company behind the coverage of the product, the audience's ability to trust what they've been hearing gets rather complicated. Not necessarily impossible, but it does get harder. And the timing does matter here. OpenAI is about to go public. We've been covering that for weeks now. They're in the middle of the biggest tech trial in decades. They're competing with Google, Anthropic, Meta, and now Chinese labs for global dominance. The value of controlling a daily media channel that 70,000 tech interested viewers watch every single day, that's not a content strategy. That's information strategy there. And there is a difference. So the takeaway, the company that makes ChatGPT now owns a talk show about AI. That sentence should be weird enough on its own to remember. But the bigger question it raises is this. As AI companies get bigger, richer, and more politically active, who's going to cover them independently? That's a question every consumer of AI news, including the people listening to this show right now, should be asking. All right. Remember earlier when I told you about the three biggest AI companies just teaming up because someone is stealing their work? I said we'd come back to who they're actually worried about. Well, here's who, at least one of the big players. DeepSeek, the Chinese AI lab that sent shockwaves through the entire industry earlier this year, just launched a consumer product. They've rolled out two new tiers, a quick response mode and an expert mode. The quick tier is exactly what it sounds like, fast answers to everyday use. Expert mode gives you access to the most powerful reasoning capabilities. That's the headline number, anyways. Analysts dispute it and estimate the true all-in cost at over $1 billion. But even so, for reference, OpenAI has spent billions in GPT models. Anthropic's training runs and estimated in the hundreds of millions. DeepSeek built a credible competitor for a fraction of the price. And one more detail here. V4 will not run on NVIDIA chips, not AMD, rather Huawei, which means this is the first major AI model to completely break from US chip dependency. So the coalition from rundown number 2 today, the one where OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are sharing intelligence to fight model copying, this is who they're fighting. And the company just opened the doors to its consumers. A mode that's competitive at a fraction of the cost. And if that doesn't make the biggest AI companies nervous, well, nothing will. All right, a few things we're watching for tomorrow. We're 17 days out from the Musk versus OpenAI trial. Expect daily filings from here on out. Governor Kemp still hasn't signed Georgia's chatbot disclosure bill. When he does, it'll be the first state requiring AI to say, I'm not human. The Microsoft Copilot paywall is now 6 days away, and OpenAI's Spud model is now 14 days into just a few weeks away window. If it drops, you'll hear about it here first. We hope to see you tomorrow. And that's Morning Intelligence for Thursday, April 9th, 2026. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe from wherever you're listening. Share it with that one friend who keeps asking you, hey, what's going on in the world of AI? You know who they are. I'm Don Michaeli. Thank you for tuning in today and have a great rest of your Thursday.